Hey there guys, and welcome to today's episode of Matthew Presents, where I'm going to be continuing my best possible series now as we are at episode 9. So today I'm going to be going through all the episode 9s of New Who, and as always picking my favourite. So sit back and enjoy. Another fantastic lineup of episodes we've got. Like I said in my previous episode, which was early on in the week with episode 8, I spoke a lot, very highly of most of the episodes 8 because they were the first part of two-part stories, but this time I get to talk about the conclusion and the second part of them two-part stories, along with some new one-parters and the start of some more two-parters as well. So this is going to be one hell of an episode I'm going to enjoy. So we're going to start off with the opening to another brilliant two-parter with The Empty Child. Now, we're going to be talking a lot about the second part of two-parter, so it feels nice to talk about the opening to another two-parter, another brilliant two-parter, may I add, being The Empty Child. Now, in the DWM rankings, I'll admit, I think it was second in 2000 to 2010. I think it was second, so I'll admit, overrated slightly. I do think there are better two-parters, but it's still a brilliant two-parter. Like in most two-parters I've spoken about, the set design's amazing. World War II, you felt like you were there in the midst of it all, and what more could you want in this World War, this very povertized, this dirty, mucky environment full of disease, to have a child that is lost, who you'd find innocent normally, and this is what Moffat's good at. We can all give him this. He's good at making the very innocent scary, and out of all the things in a world war, the one thing to scare you being a little child. And that's something very interesting. And he pulled it off as well, because all he didn't change the child's costume, didn't give it weird-looking skin. He just put a gas mask on that child and made it repeat the same words, "Are you my mummy?" And just that made me scared of gas masks. And even now, if I see a gas mask, and honestly, I think, oh my God, I'm still very, very scared of gas masks from this episode, because it's something that was so familiar back then. And just putting that on a small child and making him repeat the same words in his small, innocent voice was just very, very, very scary. And it was a touching story, because even though this child was going around and turning people into gas mask zombies like him, he was only looking for his mother. So it was a very mundane and innocent child looking for with an innocent motive, but trying to find that motive meant him turning other people like him. So it was a very interesting story. And of course, we met Captain Jack, who probably became the closest we've got to a modern brigadier. We all love Captain Jack, let's be honest. He's turned into an icon of modern Who now, and I hope he comes back. So it introduced a great character. It had a very brilliant villain, and I love the gas mask zombies. And the transformation between from Dr. Constantine into the gas mask zombie, my God, now that is what will stick with me forever. That transformation was scary. Just the whole essence of this story was very spooky and very scary, and it was a great introduction to a story which was absolutely great, and it flowed so well throughout. So the sets were brilliant, the characters were great, the mystery of Nancy was fantastic, and I cannot wait to talk about the second part of this next week. So as an introductory story into the two-parter, I'd probably give The Empty Child an 8 out of 10. Now onto the Satan Pit, and like I said, it's great to talk about the second part of the story, because the first part was amazing, introducing us into the Ood, which were just about to kill everyone, and what a cliffhanger that was. The Doctor and Ida are trapped down, miles and miles below the base, and this tomb has just opened, and one part of this episode which really gets me is when the Doctor is on the harness, and he realizes that the only way is down and that they're both trapped there, and he leaves Ida behind, and he just says, "Tell Rose, or she'll know," and he falls. And it made you feel like all hope was lost, because everything on the base itself was going wrong. Everything was going wrong down below, and you thought nothing could possibly save them. And I loved it being on the base because I loved the way that they were climbing through the ventilation shafts and they were getting chased by the Ood. That is such an intense scene because, like I said, they're in such a small enclosed environment, getting chased by these villains. It's just on the edge of your seat stuff. And I thought the Ood becoming, hitting basic 100, they were like real demonic. It was really scary to see them, just going around on a killing spree. And when they were chasing the characters through the vents, I was literally shouting at the screen, "Hurry up, run quickly!" And it just shows you how invested I was in the characters. And when Jefferson, stayed back and sacrificed himself, really sad moment that was, sacrificing himself to the Ood, who were just literally, they had no mercy. It was just really creepy how much they were just killing people at will because they were possessed by the devil. And when you think everything is all fine, they've settled down the Ood. Everything's fine. The Doctor's still stuck down there, and they take Rose away. And I still thought to myself, "There's no hope. How can anything be safe now?" The Doctor's basically sacrificed his life to stay down there with the devil as they all fly away to the black hole. And just as all hope seems lost, Toby, who we thought had there were little snippets of the devil still being inside him, of course, because the devil's voice, his mind had escaped in Toby's head, but his body was still underneath the planet. And when he basically let loose and was about to send the ship into the black hole, it was like, oh my god, what can possibly be worse? Everything was lost. And then that scene where the Doctor's running away from the devil and he falls back and you just see the TARDIS. That scene makes me smile just thinking about it. The nostalgic moment in that scene, just to say, oh my god, it's the TARDIS. I was just so goddamn happy because everything seemed so low and lost, and to see the TARDIS was just, what a moment that was. And just as they were about to go into the black hole, the Doctor saved them at the last minute. So the only way I can describe the Satan Pit, it was just, I was on the edge of my seat throughout. It's so exciting, so thrilling, not a dull moment at all. It's just the perfect action-packed Doctor Who episode. So what a conclusion to a great two-parter. I'd give the Satan Pit a 9 out of 10. Again, I get to praise another conclusion to another fantastic two-parter with the Family of Blood. And like I said last week, the concept of the Doctor being human, we wanted him to be back and he just couldn't force his way through. And, that little kid had ran away with the watch, and we were like, just give the Doctor the watch, and everyone was getting killed, and the scarecrows were going mad. And I love the slow motion scenes where it was showing the young children fighting the scarecrows. There were some powerful scenes, and David's acting in the story is at its peak, because you could tell that John Smith was getting upset because he realised, even though he didn't know, he could just tell this was all his fault, because everyone else wanted him to be the Doctor, but he wanted to be John Smith because he'd fell in love. He saw a future where he had kids, he had a wife, he'd had a life that the Doctor always dreamed of. And it was so sad because we wanted John Smith to become the Doctor, but we didn't want John Smith to go away either. It was such a sad ending because despite them defeating the Family of Blood and despite that really dark ending, I didn't want John Smith to go because he knew deep down he had to become this Doctor again. He didn't know who the Doctor was himself, but he knew that this Doctor was so widely looked and people loved him so much, and he knew that he had to kind of put everyone else first before himself. And it was a really sad moment because Martha was saying, "You've got to become the Doctor again." She was getting angry at him, and even his wife, she was basically saying, "Just be the Doctor. As much as I don't want you to be, you need to save these people." And he got really upset, and it was so sad to see John Smith turn back into the Doctor. But then when the Doctor did come back, he kicked ass. That scene, oh God, one of my favourite scenes in New Who, when John Smith we think it's John Smith, walks into the Family of Blood ship, and he's been all clumsy, knocking stuff over, and we're like, oh God, there we are thinking, the Family of Blood are basically saying, bring the Doctor or you die. And we think, oh God, it's still John Smith, he's gonna die, all hope's lost. And then just as he throws the watch, he just looks up and he goes, oh, and then he does all that techno babble, and he just says, one thing you should never do, you shouldn't let me press all those buttons. And he's like, one word of advice, run. And it's just, that moment, it's like the Doctor is back. and he runs out, and the whole ship explodes. It's just, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about that scene. It's just so freaking good. That is just the 10th Doctor right there. You know, 2 parts of missing him, and he comes back with a bang. It's just such a great scene. And then we get to see the dark side of him, the way that he traps the family of blood. I think he pushed, I think, the old man. He put him in loads of change, and he pushed him into a supernova. He trapped the little girl in the corner of a mirror. He made the young lad a scarecrow for eternity. Really dark that the Doctor would do that, but kind of showed that the trauma that he'd been put through, and that he had to leave his love at the end as well. So the only way I could describe this 2-parter, nostalgic. Just mixture of emotions, because one minute you were feeling really sad, the next minute you were feeling excited, and then just when you think that the Doctor's gone, that scene I can't get enough of. James is sat and his limbs are going mental next to me. It's just such a great scene. I'm going to watch that after this, but yeah, a fantastic second part. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. The Family of Blood is just an amazing episode. Again, I get to talk about the second part of a 2-parter, Forest of the Dead. I mean, I'm speechless from the last one, but this 2-parter, I mean, I spoke so highly about it last week with the first part, but the second part just got even better. You know, the cliffhanger that Donna Noble had been saved and we thought that she was gone, and she got put into this universe where it was her perfect life, but it wasn't actually really her life. It was all just like an imagination. So again, one thing, I mean, I don't know why people don't love Donna Noble. She had such a great series, and it's so sad that all of that was wiped away in Journey's End. But she, again, was amazing in this story. The way that she had this normal life, and in the end, her children got took away from her. It was really sad, the ending. But yeah, the Doctor was stuck with River Song on this in the library, and they were getting chased by Vashta Nerada, and people were dropping off like flies one by one. And you could tell the Vashta Nerada were really creeping up on them, and it was getting really intense, really on the edge of your seat stuff. And River Song ended up giving her life for the Doctor. And, you know, throughout this story, we'd been questioning who River Song was. You know, who the hell are you to know the Doctor like this? But then there was such a great scene, and it's one of my favourite scenes, as you can see on the screen, where she hits the Doctor with quite a mean right hook and knocks him out. And he gets really upset at the end. But David's acting again, amazing. Just the way he says, "You whispered my name. You whispered my name in my ear. There's only one reason I would ever tell someone my name. There's only one time I could." And he gets really upset, and she just says spoilers and takes her own life, pretty much. I mean, that is one powerful story. The Doctor's really upset because he knows that she's got such a big part of his life. He just doesn't know that yet. And again, with the feels, Donna loses her children, which she thinks is actually her real children. She loses what she thought was her husband, and her perfect life is gone. And it's really powerful that to save the universe from the Vashta Nerada and to save themselves, they have to sacrifice these people, they have to sacrifice this perfect life. And it was just a really powerful story, I think. And it was great to have a bit of happiness at the end when the Doctor goes back and he realises that they literally have been saved, and he goes back and brings them all back to life, and it's such a happy moment to see them all alive in the library at the end. But then, you know, Moffat, he likes to always, you know, kick us in the teeth at the end. Donna's husband, he sees her, and he's just about to talk to her, but his stammer gets in the way, and he gets sent. That is so, so sad. But yeah, the ending, clicks his fingers, opens the TARDIS door. It's just such a great ending. Again, mixture of emotions, a really powerful story. Just like the Family of Blood, I'd have to give Forest of the Dead a 10 out of 10. Another flawless episode. Well, Cold Blood. Now, I kind of went a bit over the top last week because I ended up talking about the entire 2-parter. But basically, what else can I say apart from what I said last week? The Silurians didn't look as menacing as they could have. Said that last week. And, I mean, again, if this story, if Doctor Who and the Silurians doesn't exist, then this would be one of the best 2-parters in Modern Who. But like I said, because Doctor Who and the Silurians does exist, I can only but compare this 2-parter to Doctor Who and the Silurians. And like I said, I'm still trying to think of it as an independent story, but to me there's so many similarities I just can't. So once again, I can only give Cold Blood, just like Hungry Earth, I'll probably only give it a 7 out of 10, being generous. But the one thing that is different about this story than the Doctor and the Silurians is the ending, when the Doctor, you know, he sees this he sees the bit of the TARDIS that is inside the crack, and it's like the look on his face is just like, oh my god. Because of course Rory got killed again because of the crack. So I guess Cold Blood did have a little bit more of a difference than the Hungry Earth did, because it was running along the same story, but the Series 5 story arc did, play quite a big part of it, with Rory getting, going inside the crack, getting killed. Well, we thought he'd get killed because Rory always gets killed. And the ending with the bit of the TARDIS. So I guess what this has over the Hungry Earth is that it actually progresses the story arc. So screw 7 out of 10. I'll be generous. I'll give Cold Blood a 7.5 out of 10. Now on to a one-part story in Series 6, which is Night Terrors, which I think gets quite a mixed reaction from fans. Plenty of people I know like it, plenty of people don't. It's not a story I'm really fussed on. It's probably the only really average, I'm not too bothered about episode in today's video. But the child actor in this story was annoying and irritating, and there wasn't a very good child actor, and took me out of certain parts of the story. But the pot dolls were pretty freaky, I will admit. I think everyone, from watching the Chucky films, we all know pot dolls are a little bit scary. And believe me, when I was little, I used to get minded by my cousin. I used to sleep in a room full of flipping pot dolls. So, yeah, not the greatest place to sleep, honest. But, yeah, a good story. I wouldn't go as far as to say great, but I think the only reason that I go to watch this is because of the pot dolls. I'm not interested in the Doctor and, trying to help this little kid. I'm not really bothered about that. The one standout scene that I always remember is when Amy transforms into a pot doll. That is pretty spooky. But I do think the only reason why I bother to even rewatch it, if this episode was in front of me, the only reason I would rewatch it is for the pot dolls themselves. Nothing else appeals to me in the story really. So it's I'll watch it if it's there, but if it's not there, I'm not bothered sort of story. So I can only really give it a smack bang in the middle rating. I'd probably give Night Terrors a 5 out of 10. Now on to Hyde, and this story was absolutely fantastic for the first 40 minutes. The last 5 I am not really a fan of, because going into Hyde, I mean, just look at the poster, look at the trailers, it looked like the proper supernatural Doctor Who story. Because I think, honestly, I wish Doctor Who would do real supernatural stories more often, because I just love them so goddamn much. I mean, I'm one for horror movies, and having that in Doctor Who, I mean, Doctor Who's such a great show. You can have any genre. You can have a comedy episode, a horror, a thriller. You can have any sort of genre of episode. And when this episode rolled around, I thought, oh my god, I cannot wait. I was so looking for, and I'm not saying it disappointed, because it started off really well. When they were walking around and they were hearing noises, it was just literally like you'd get in a horror movie. And I'll never forget that scene where the woman, I can't remember the character's name now, but when the guy and the woman are looking out of the window and there was a flash of lightning and you saw the ghost, I jumped out my freaking skin. Honestly, some parts of this story were so scary, and when the Doctor went back in time and he was in that forest getting chased around that creature, that was really scary because you never really got to see the creature properly. The music was fantastic as well. It was a proper scary episode, and even when they obviously incorporated time travel into it, with a time traveler being lost, it was still a scary episode, because when you're in that forest, you were still getting chased by this really scary villain, this very scary animal. But literally all of this intensity and suspense that that had invested me in watching this for the first 40 minutes was destroyed when it turned out to be a love story. Oh my god, I mean, going from horror to love story in a matter of seconds. Some people would call it clever. I would just call it ruining this episode. I mean, it's not ruined it to the point where I say, oh, I hate this episode. I'll still always watch it for the supernatural side, but the ending just lets it down so badly. From this scary monster that has been chasing the Doctor, you think it's going to slaughter him, and it turns out that it's actually just looking for its lover. I mean, it's a happy ending, but some episodes don't need a happy ending, especially supernatural ones. I mean, that scientist and that woman getting together, that's a happy ending, but a very scary villain that we were shit scared of for the entire thing turns out to just be looking for its lover. It just ruined it. It ruined it for me. So up until the 40th minute, I'd probably give Hyde an 8 out of 10, but the ending kind of ruined it for me, so I'd probably only give it a 7 out of 10. So to conclude with the episode 9s, like I said in the last video, I did give you a hint. It will be one of the two-part stories, because I didn't choose a two-part story last time because, one, I really love Father's Day and I wanted to give it credit, and I wanted it to be in my best possible series, and I don't think it's fair judging a two-parter until you've actually reviewed the end of it. So I think it's fair to name one of them in my best possible series now that I have basically spoke about all of them. So of course there's the Series 2 two-parter, Possible Planet, The Satan Pit. There's The Family of Blood and Human Nature. There is Forest of the Dead, Silence in the Library, and The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Two-parters that both have blood in them, I've just noticed. But yes, a very difficult decision, and I will narrow it down to two. It is between, well, actually, you could say that the Series 2, Series 3, and Series 4 two-parters are all on level, and it's such a difficult choice choosing between Series 3 and the Series 4 two-parter. But just because, I don't know why, if I was to have the Series 3 two-parter in front of me and the Series 4 two-parter, I would choose Forest of the Dead. And the reason for that is I think just throughout the story, it was more intense and I was more invested in the story throughout, even though my favourite scene in both of them is when the Doctor returns in the Family of Blood. That is my favourite scene, but I'm not going to judge an entire two-parter on one scene. I'm not going to say this is my favourite two-parter because of one scene. I'm judging the entire two-parter. And I just feel throughout the stronger two-parter was the Silence in the Library one, because I preferred the Vashta Nerada. I liked the characters we met, and I just thought the Doctor, and I thought Donna was absolutely fantastic in it as well. So just, and I mean by the smallest of fractions, my favourite episode 9 will go to Forest of the Dead. But if I could choose two, it would definitely be the Series 3 two-parter as well. So then guys, thank you for watching today's video. As always, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and comment below your favourite episode 9 of New Who. Tell me what it is and why in the comments below. But until then, I'll be seeing you guys this Friday to end this 2-week marathon of the best possible series, where I'm going to be going through all my episode 10s and picking my favourite. But until then, have a good week, and I'll see you on Friday.